Hi, how are we doing? I'm doing my June wrap up today, which is gonna be an interesting one because throughout quite a lot of June I was in a reading slump. I was also sick for like a full week, so I really didn't think I would have that much to talk about, but turns out at the end of the month I read a shitload. So I do still have quite a few things to talk about, so let's start with stats. Obviously in June I read a total of 12 books, which amounted to 4,500 pages read, which is an average of 357 pages per book and 150 pages per day. Like, I've never had these averages without a decimal point, so that's interesting. Then for format, I have 2 books I physically own, 2 ebooks, 6 galleys from NetGalley, and 2 library books that I read this month. Then for star rating, we have 2 2 stars, 4 3 stars, 4 4 stars, and 2 5 stars for an average rating of a 3.5. Then for age range, we have 4 YA books, 1 new adult, and 7 adult books. And for genre, we have 8 contemporaries, 2 fantasies, 1 dystopian, and 1 historical fiction book. So let's get into everything that I read this month, starting off with Love Arranged by Lauren Asher, which I gave 4 5 stars to. This is the final book in the Lakefront Billionaire series, and honestly my thoughts on this one are a bit complex because for the most part I loved this book. I really loved the couple of this one. I loved both of the characters as well and their personal journeys throughout the book. The dynamic was great. It was a fake engagement and I really loved the way that was executed. As the previous 2 books, it has immaculate small town vibes, but I despised the thread conflict. I thought it was so poorly executed and the resolution to it also just pissed me off, and I left this book feeling just so angry that I almost wanted to give it a 1 star, but I am glad now a month later that I didn't, because now that I'm not like in that anger zone that I was when I finished the book, I can realize that like most of the book I really loved. Then I read Bookshops and Bonedust by Baldree, which I give 5 stars to. I have never really felt that like cozy, comforting feeling that a cozy fantasy is supposed to give you until I read this book. This was such a delightful, cozy read that I had a great time reading. It's a prequel to Legends and Lattes, which I did enjoy, but like I didn't have that cozy feeling right, but this I definitely did. I loved all the bookshop stuff. I loved Viv's character journey throughout this book. I thought that was really well done, and I just loved the cast of side characters. Again, immaculate small town vibes in this one. My only complaint with this one is that there was a bit more of like a bigger fantasy plot twist that I don't think was executed the best, but overall good times. And then next I read The Long Game by Rachel Reid, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. And you know, the previous 2 books were good times, this one wasn't. This was sad times. This is the 6th book in the Game Changer series and currently the last one that's out, and this is the 2nd book following Shane and Ilya, and I love being back with them so much, but like at what cost? Because this book very much focuses on both of their mental health, and they struggle a lot throughout this book, and it was very painful to read, but I also thought it was just really well executed, especially because Shane and Ilya deal with things in a very different way, and I thought that was very realistic and just really well executed. And I especially loved how throughout this entire book there's like no conflict within the romance, like within the relationship. Their love for each other is never in doubt, never questioned. It is just strong and like a heartwarming undertone thread, like all of the devastation throughout this book. And I just think that everything is just really well executed, and I quite my way through this book. It is just so good. Then next I read 13 Little Love Stories by Lynn, Krystal, Maldonado, Katharine, McGee, J.L., Krystal, Marquis, Julie Murphy, Jessica Goodman, Laura Sebastian, Sloan, Harlow, Jessica Sutanto, Jennifer Dugan, Elise, Bryant, and Sara, Shepard, which I give 2 to 5 stars to as a from NetGalley. This is an anthology of YA, mostly love stories, each story inspired by different Taylor Swift song, and it's kind of right up my alley that way. But as you can tell by the star rating, it didn't really end up working for me. First of all, I think the connection to Taylor Swift was very like minor, and I don't really get why that was like the main selling point of this book, because for so many stories I even doubted if the author like had heard the song that they were supposedly inspired by. That's just how loose the connection was. But like even besides that, I thought most of the stories that I kind of made, and even though like I had a good time with this and there are some stories in here that I did love, overall it was just like a fine collection to me. And then next I read Release Me by Mafi, which I give 2 to 5 stars to. This is the 2nd book in the New Republic series, which is a spin-off of the Shadow Me series. I really enjoyed the 1st book in this, but this has just made me realize that the series just is kind of a cash grab, because this book is 3 scenes. That's it. It just dragged out that much, and I just feel like the series could have been a single book, and I feel like that's kind of a shame, because I do think the story being told in this is interesting. It just is that it's being dragged out for so long for like no reason. Then next I read The Dixon Rule by Elle Kennedy, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars to. I loved it so much and took me so much by surprise. This is the second book in the Campus Diary series, which is the third series in like the off-campus world, and I really love this one. I really love just the two main characters, Shane and Diana. I thought they were so interesting main characters. I loved their personal journeys throughout this book as well, and I just loved their romance. I think they had a great dynamic throughout this book, and I loved how it kind of grew from like this a bit of a hate situation, more so annoyance, that to a love situation. I thought that was really well executed. There's also like a dance competition element to this that I thought was really fun and a great aspect of it, and then the ending got really fucking devastated. And it's not like it's a vibe switch, there was a slow build throughout the entire book, and you can kind of like see it coming throughout the entire thing. Not really, but like you can tell something is coming, you know. So then when it hits, I truly sobbed. Like I had to put this book down for a little bit because it was just crying so hard, and I just thought it was so well done, so well with it. And it just wasn't until I read this in one sitting, and it wasn't until I was actively sobbing that I fully realized just how invested in this book I got. And it's quite a chunker, so like the fact that I just binge read it says a lot as well. Then next I read Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars to. This was just a really fun like pirate adventure fantasy story, but it's also a bit of darkness to it, as the stakes like maybe like for the world are extremely low, but for our main character are extremely high, and I thought that was just really well executed. I love Tress as a main character. I thought she was just very great character to follow, and I love just how resourceful and how smart she is and how quick she is to adapt in situations, and also just how social she is in a way that she connects with different people so easily and so well. I love the cast of side characters as well. I thought they were like a fun pirate crew. Plus Tress in his book has like an animal companion that can talk as well, and I love that character. I thought the plot was really well executed, the world so interesting, also kind of terrifying because these seas are made of dust that when they come into contact with water will like sprout vines, so it's like very dangerous. So I was on the edge of my seat the entire time reading this book. And also this book is narrated by a wider Cosmere character named Hoyt, who I personally haven't encountered in any of Brandon Sanderson books before. Also some small cameos, but like not properly. So I really liked his narration in this one. I thought he was a great storyteller, while also just being a really funny character, just like adding in that more kind of like lighthearted, like fun tone, and moments where things maybe got a bit darker. Then next I read Good Luck Babe by Erin Baldwin, which I give 2 out of 5 stars to, and as a guy I got from that galley. This one was fine, so I contemporary. It sounded right on my alley. It contained so many tropes that I really love, but it just was okay. It's also really forgettable. Like I barely remember anything from it. I thought the reality TV show aspect of this was really well executed. The romance was a bit underdeveloped, and it did have a bit of tonal issues at the start, and then the resolution also felt a bit lackluster. But overall I do think this is a fine read in the moment, but as I said, afterwards just completely forgettable. Then next I read The Summer Girlfriend by Christina Forrest, which I give 2 out of 5 stars to, and as another guy from that galley. This is another one that's kind of right up my alley and just didn't end up working for me. I think the characters felt very flat. The romance was very insta-love and very underdeveloped, and this also just got very repetitive at a certain point, and I was just bored while reading this. Then we have For the Bride, Rebecca Grisham, which I give 2 out of 5 stars to. There's another guy I got from that galley. This one is difficult because there are aspects to it that I really love, but then like one big thing that I really hated. But basically in this book, our main character is like dealing with the grief of losing her father while also being 3 years sober. So she's also like dealing with sobriety and kind of like facing who she was when she was still an alcoholic. I think all of that was really well executed. It also takes place around a wedding, and I thought everything surrounding that was really interesting, and like kind of like the wedding party was like a fun group of characters that I liked the dynamic of. But then I despised the love interest. I just didn't think she was nice. Like it was a very mean person, and I just think Alice could do better, and I just really was not a fan of the love interest. And then the romance just also felt really underdeveloped, so the combination of those two things just gave me an ick for so much of this book, especially because there are times when this book is focusing on those aspects that I do enjoy, but then the main character Alice is just constantly in a monologue referring to the romance and her feelings for the love interest, and I'm just like, shut up, I don't care. Then I had Puck by Samantha Allen, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars to, as a galley got from that galley. No, this is a book that's kind of right up my alley, and that was right up my alley. This was so much fun. I loved Puck as a main character. They were so much fun. They were so funny, but then also at the same time towards the end they had some like introspective moments that really added depth to the characters, felt to the story just in general, that I really liked. I really, again, it has a wedding setting, and I like that element to it. I loved the friend group in this one. It was so much fun. I also got so invested in their shenanigans and Puck kind of messing around, you know, getting them in the right couplings and everything, and I got so invested in that and it's so much fun reading it. I also really like the dynamic between Puck and their love interest. These sparks truly flew off the page, but I do think the romance was a bit underdeveloped. It went from lust to I love you so quickly, and that's kind of what kept this one being a 5-star, but highly recommend this one. And then already lastly for today, we have A Prince Among Pirates by Katie Abdu, which I give 2 to 5 stars to, and is another galley from Nagali. This was just a fine read. I think the pirate stuff was fun, the pirate crew was fun. I liked our main character Kit, he was a lot of fun, and I loved his growth throughout the book. The romance was fine, again a bit underdeveloped but cute, but this book just has no plot, which just made it really hard to like really get invested in this and for it to like really grip me. So it just ended up being like a very middle of the road book for me in the end. And that is everything that I have for you today. So yeah, a mixed bag of reads, some good ones, some not so good ones, but I hope you still enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of any of these books, if you've read them, as well as some of the books you read in June, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Goodbye.